Got a special presentation by Randy Brown tonight on a new feature in CF 2021 called CFSetup. There hasn't been a lot out there on the web. Really looking forward to this. Take it away, Randy.
Thanks a lot, Rick. I work out here on the campus of Michigan State University. That's where I'm from, and that's where I'm hailing from like right now. My presentation topic is ins and outs of CFSetup. Rick kind of pressed me into that name because I kind of changed my mind the next morning, Rick, but that's fine. That's cool. I stuck with that one. So like I said, my name is Randy Brown. Let's get this started. So let's be clear up front. I got like 10 to 12 topics to cover. Here's my agenda. Not going to read it to you guys. I give you a second to like glance over it, see what we're going to do here. It shouldn't be that long of a topic. It's kind of like one that makes you scratch your head and think about it, because for years it seems like the pain regarding like Adobe ColdFusion was like, oh boy, I got to upgrade my servers. Now I got to move on my data sources and everything else. And true enough, you have the car files and everything. And I think I've even had those like crash on me before and other issues, but that was in the past and we're going to leave it back there. So, like I said, my name is Randy Brown. Work at Michigan State University. I think if you're attending this talk right now, this would be beneficial if you're a DevOps, network or server admin, or ColdFusion developer. What is CFSetup? Like Rick said, it hasn't got lots of press at all. And I mean, if you Google search it right now, you'll probably just find Charlie's talk out there regarding CFSetup. And I think I heard about it like a year ago. It's a command line tool. It only works with Adobe ColdFusion. I talked more toward the end about like what versions it works with, and it came out with Adobe ColdFusion 2021 release. Why would you use CFSetup? Well, of course, we all want to save time. I have time to be doing server upgrades and migrating the bazillion like settings that you might have in ColdFusion server. And I run a few instances on campus myself, and I like to keep things like, programmatically. I like to keep it consistent. I'm pretty sure we all faced a situation where somebody went into the admin and changed something and forgot to tell you, forgot whatever have you, didn't leave a note, something like that, and you found it later when something broke, or you did it yourself and you just forgot. So this tool will help you standardize those settings across those servers and instances. Probably get scheduled to do automatic backups because you can script this in a non-interactive mode. Definitely automate some like imports and exports. And it's a very small install. No extra frameworks or libraries required. Even though I love CFconfig, I don't like the whole command box part of it. And even Charlie talked about that in his talk, how you have to understand that it doesn't have to be in command box, and how you still can use it. Just gets a little bit more confusing. But I still like CFconfig. How do you install this? Of course, I've already installed it. You just download it from Adobe. It's in the download section, the same section where you would get the ColdFusion downloads, and run that. I can't remember what other platforms it works on, but I'm not positive on that one, so I apologize about that one. By default, it's going to install that CF Home, whatever that might be, in your CFconfig and then CFSetup directory. It's going to make those. The ACF server doesn't have to be connected, similar to CFconfig. And to see some of these settings, you sometimes have to restart the CF service. And I think there's one setting that Pete Freetag talks about in the lockdown guide where those settings stay until that server is like rebooted and cached. I'm pretty sure that's what's causing it. I kind of alluded to it earlier. This runs in 3 types of modes. At least that's how they explain it in the docs. You got the terminal mode. You can just type CFSetup at the prompt, and it takes you into this terminal. It's mostly black, blue, and I think yellow. Or you can do it in interactive mode, so you can just like call it from the DOS prompt. And the coolest part, which I'll talk about like toward the end of the meeting, will be you can script it. So you can, CFSetup do this and CFSetup do that. So I thought that was that's probably one of my best features as far as this tool. So that's enough of the setup. Let's get this started. Hopefully, Nick and Rick, I'm going to take the approach of I'm going to try to explain this through like real life examples of where this tool will be useful. It's probably not something we're going to use every day, and hopefully the next version of CF or whatever we're doing, server build, it'll come in handy, and somebody will check out this talk and be like, okay, that's really helpful. One thing you must understand, the help is, be called at all levels. It's usually CFSetup, then help, and then whatever like command you want to call. Like my example, I give the, CFSetup help alias or CF help show, and they'll show you like all the commands underneath like show. And those aliases are going to save you like gobs of time and reduce the amount of confusion, which is the same thing that CFconfig can do as well. So let's get on to this work. So demo one, like I said, I want to use like real life examples, and I referred to the lockdown guide for 2021, section 4.1. He has 3 pages of like server settings he wants you to check and alter and all this great stuff. And I thought it'd be nice if he just had those commands like right there in the lockdown guide where I wouldn't have to like craft it myself, and I just copy like, yep, I'm gonna do that one. This is gonna be 25 seconds instead of 5, what he recommends, and this is gonna be unchecked instead of checked. Or it would have been nice, but hey, can't complain. It's still like good deal. So my first example, I'm going to show you that, and it's probably be the last time I bounce between the PowerPoint. So let me stop sharing that screen, and I will pop over here. 1 second. Stop sharing that, and share this. So you're looking at our test server here. I've created an instance called CF demo. It's got a few data sources on it, and I already have the command window going. I already have this in administrator mode. And one of the things I forgot to do, and I apologize, is to up this font, which now I got to think about where is that font at? Cursor size, font size. I don't want Nick having an issue seeing that. I'm going to assume that's okay. If not, somebody's going to say something, tell me to like bump it up.
No, you're good.
All right. Thanks a lot, sir. So we're sitting right here. Let me go in here real quick. I mentioned earlier, you can type the help from anywhere. This will give you all the commands that you can do in CFSetup, and then one for this particular situation regarding where Pete has 3 pages of setting recommendations or changes that he wants you to do. We can go in there through the GUI. I'm pretty sure we would call it, I think it's called server settings. Yep. All these guys right here. I think it was this one that he wanted to change to 5 seconds. So I'm going to change this to 60 seconds and submit that. So he has all this stuff in here he wants us to change, right? So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to hopefully cheat. And I'm going to grab one of my, no, I'm not. So I'm going to type it. You don't have to type all caps. I don't know, some weird habit that I picked up or something. And I made a mistake. Oh, clear mistake. And I should have mentioned it earlier. I forgot to reference my alias. Because it's like, hey, I don't know where you want me to pull this from, but you typed everything else correctly. So There's all my settings, my server settings. You can see them in programmatic mode here. And the first one's on that page that Pete wants you to go after, which I'll hopefully have in my cheat sheet. Yep, or right here. The enable timeout request and timeout request after seconds. Grab that right there. Whoops, just made a mistake. It's all right. Do that right there. Paste that right there. It told me that box is checked the true, which is fine. That's what Pete wanted in that case. And then I think I'm going to grab this. And I'm going to see what the value is. Value set to 60 seconds. So once I take this out of here, which I know that is wrong. I don't think I can do both of them at the same time without it being in a batch file, but we're about to see. So I'm going to change that per Pete's like example. And of course, yep, it don't let you grab both of them at the same time. Change that to 5 seconds. Looks like I could have went to the administrator and did this just as fast. I understand, but if you have a bunch of them and servers are keeping sync, you probably want to like programmatically do it or something like that. So now I'm going to get this function or get this setting. And now it's set to 5 seconds. So that was my first example of how you could use that. I'm not going to go through all the settings because that'd be like a really boring presentation. But I will just move this slide over here really quick. This really low budget PowerPoint now. So my second demo, he has an example of like, he says, or a recommendation, where he says all the data sources on a ColdFusion web server probably don't need create, drop, alter, grant, revoke, and disable for all CF data sources. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. You're right, because why would you need that coming from your ColdFusion server? And if you do, then you can enable it for the ones that need to be there. So in this next example, I'm going to show you like how to list the data sources and how we can programmatically make those alterations, because we don't want to type this in for every stinking data source, as you can see in my example, like down here. So I'm just going to copy that from there. Copy that from there. I'm going to move this back out of the way. I'm going to paste this up here. So right now it's telling me my ColdFusion data source for this data source called CF demo data, which I'll just pop into the administrator so we can see that. Data sources. We bump that up to, I gotta think, I'm not just the only one looking at this. CF demo data. This guy. Show advanced settings. And sure enough, false is not checked. I could do something like that. And then save my settings or submit my settings. Run this again. And it should be set to true. Now imagine if this were one of my like production servers or something like that, I wouldn't have these crazy like data source names, like, you know, SpaceX, Q36 space modulator, and survey data and Superstar. And I have a long laundry list I'd have to do this to. Well, I wouldn't want to do that through the GUI or programmatically by typing each one of these. So what I could do is I can do this. And I need to get rid of this. That's my alias. It's like, voila, you have all these data sources on your machine. What are you going to do with these? And I was thinking like, okay, maybe it's built into the tool where I don't have to like, call these names. It's great. It gave them to me and I know what to type to like, make that change. But if we think about what Pete's recommending in there, he says, in this, he has a recommendation for like drop, grant, and a bunch of other stuff. I think it's like 4 settings. But I don't want to do that because that'd be too much work. So what I figured I could do is something like this, which is a handy feature. And I saw this, I think, in Charlie's demo, and I've used it like before. I could take this, I can pipe this to the clipboard. So Nick's like, where is it? Where's that? Where's that? It went to the clipboard, Nick. That's where it's at. Let me get a new notepad here. There's all your stuff. Well, clearly, I don't need that. It's not a data source name, and that's not a data source name. So I just need that. So I'm gonna copy this data. Oh, this is really like low budget and like really hacky. Let me pull that down. Let me fire up my trusty front Excel. Let me come over here. Let me paste this in there. Let me do some crazy like Excel concatenating magic and voila. Now I have everything that I need to make this like happen. But then again, like who wants to like copy this, do that, do this? I mean, I'm pretty sure I don't need to run it to prove it to you guys it's gonna work. I'll just do this. I'll grab this one. Do-do-do-do. Move that out of the way. Paste that guy there. I remember Pete was recommending drop be false, alter be false, grant be false, and revoke be false. Sorry I didn't check those beforehand, but as you can see, success, it changed all those. So I started thinking like, well, you can use this thing in interactive mode. I can just quickly write like a batch file and a loop or something like that, and that'd work just dandy for me, I'm pretty sure. So I already got this set up for you guys, so we don't have to sit here and watch me like struggle and type. Let me clear the screen. I think I called it loop test. Let's just double check that in case I did something I wasn't supposed to do. Oops, config, CFSetup. Yep, loop test. Let's just open this. Sorry if I don't have that zoomed in enough, but basically this is doing the same thing that I just did in Excel. It's just doing it through a DOS batch file over a loop. You can see right here where I'm running the show. I'm passing to the clipboard and then it's going to show it down there. So I'm going to run loop test. It's going to pause it. That's not bad. And yes, I kept everything right in that same subdirectory. I probably wouldn't do that on a normal day. It's just a demo though. So I could then, highlight all this and copy and paste it and all that great stuff. Or I could do the loop test and pipe it to the clipboard. Oh, sorry, it's a pause in there. That's what we were waiting on. So maybe I should get rid of that pause. Yeah. So then, I'm still stuck in that whole like cut and paste type thing. Like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this way? Because it'll only run like one line at a time. Minimize that. Not only can I like pipe it to the clipboard, or then, some old school DOS stuff, I can save it to a file. And sorry, I'm at the cheat because I can't remember what I was gonna call it. There we go. I know it's very black and white. If you have any questions, just go ahead and chime in anytime. And I made a mistake and I left that pause in there, but it'll be fine. So now it created that file in the same subdirectory as CFSetup. Here it is right here, update DSN. We'll just edit that. We'll pretend like that never happened. Save it again. No, I guess we won't be. That's okay. Don't save, won't stop anything. I can stop progress, then I can run it. And yep, I'm pretty sure everything ran correctly. So far, hopefully you guys are still with me. And that was, like I said, just one situation where I was like, oh, okay, I'll just make it a loop and I'll just like keep looping over this thing until I get the results that I want. So in the case of all my data sources, pretend my machine had a bunch of them on there. This would make it, I don't know, what, 10, 12 lines, easy peasy, and done.
Randy, is it possible to say do this with like star for the data sources, whatever, to modify all of them as opposed to doing them one by one?
You know
For
what,
any type
Nick?
of grouping or things like that?
Not that I know of, but this is a live demo. I'm willing to give it a shot. Want to give that a shot?
Breaking your server, so we're all good.
Well, hang on. Let's think about this, right? Let me get that file. Where'd it go? It should still be over there. Nope, that one. So you're saying instead of data source there or right here, put star?
Or I don't know, something, if that works. I don't know. Like that, I'm asking if that's something that is
Not in the
possible.
docs that I've seen, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Because it could be some hidden feature that nobody wants to tell us about or something like that.
And I'm thinking more of a situation where you want to export the settings of all your, data sources in one command line or something like that.
As far as export, that's at the end, and yes, it
Yeah.
can.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure this won't work. Yep, it failed.
All right.
Good question, sir. But yeah, we talked about exporting all the data sources like toward the end. So that was demo 1 and demo 2. Let me move over here to demo 3. So, whoops, nope, I already showed you guys demo 3 because that was with Excel and the batch file. So now I'm on to demo 4. So currently it's hard to keep track of all your documented changes made to your server, and it just becomes like a maintenance nightmare. If you have multiple instances, all it's going to take is for the phone to ring, and if you forgot to do something like that, like Nick was alluding to, and I'm going to cheat and pretend like I have like hundreds of data sources here, and that would just be a nightmare to like recreate, and they had like real names. So I'm gonna go over here to hopefully my notes. And this is the one I think you're referring to right here, Nick. So I'm done with this server. Let's say, for instance, it's already in our staging area. I'm ready to push to production. I got everything set the way I want it to do. I just need to pipe this stuff out and suck it into the other one. It'd be as simple as just typing CFSetup export all and give it like a file name. So then it export like all those categories. Now, Charlie makes reference to this in his presentation too. You probably want to, put the security on there. It doesn't bring that. Oh no, it did bring it up. You can use the, passphrase, and that's what the P does. I just left it off and I copied that first time. So if you add -P, I keep this secret, Nick. This is my, top secret password, ColdFusion demo. Then I'll export all this, and it puts inside of here like a hash or something, an extra like I think encryption on top of the encryption of the data source. And I will show you guys that when we get to like data sources. I can show it to you now. Let me just grab that. Remember, it dumped it into that CFSetup directory. It's just gonna pollute this thing. Nobody wants to look at that. Let's copy this, get rid of it. Let's bring it over to VS Code. It's coming. And let's move this over here. So somewhere in here is the data sources. And this is just like a demo that I set up with some fake names in it and everything. You'll see a data source right here. There should be a password right there. And then down at the very bottom, can't remember they call it seed or salt or something like that. That passphrase. So you need that passphrase in order to like decrypt the encryption on top of that. And each server, ColdFusion server. So even if Nick got this, he wouldn't be able to put that into his server and know the passwords because it's like, I don't know, encrypted twice. Charlie talks about that more in detail in his presentation. Uh, Definitely reference like checking it out. I was like, okay, this is great because that was always one of my concerns as far as CFconfig. I'm like, well, shoot, I just took all my passwords and put them in the clear. If I lose this file or do something that maybe I shouldn't do, yeah, not going to be good. So as you can see, Nick, there's all my settings and data sources, and the passwords are encrypted. But even, the settings, I still say it's at risk because, it still has like, 5 seconds for my timeout up there. I mean, you can clearly see these things, but the password's really what I'm trying to keep like locked down. So we move that back out of the way. So the key things here that I've used this tool for is like the runtime and the data sources. So let's clear this out. And you can export different categories. You can do them one at a time, or you can chain it by, like I could have said, CFSetup export runtime, comma, data sources, and then named this file, and would jab those two in there. Now, the bad thing about it is that I've exported this into like a JSON file, and I only can import it into a server. If memory serves me correct, I think CFconfig, I could go between my example, I think when I did that like 4 or 5 years ago, was between version 9 of ColdFusion into like version 11. And I could tell it like I have version 9 on this side, which you can't see me, I don't think, and version 11 on this side. And it would just like sync them and they'd be files. But I mean, there's workarounds with that too. I could create another bat file and just quickly like import, export, and make the user kind of think that happened. So this is the one I'm going to create for data sources. And yet again, here's my top secret password, ColdFusion demos for that file. And they always recommend that destroy this file, has sensitive information, don't leave it laying around, all that great stuff. So any questions up to that point? And this server is running right now, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, I could turn it off and be doing the same thing. I think you just got to trust me on that one, Nick. So let me go to my next slide. So we talked about exporting like all the settings. I showed you guys that, how to export just a certain group. We exported runtime, and then we exported like the data sources. So on the demo 5, and that one, I'm going to talk about like importing data sources and show you before and after of like the data sources. Like I mentioned earlier, ColdFusion, if it's importing, it's pulling it from a JSON file into the server. So I can't go like JSON file to JSON file. So that's the bad thing about that. Whatever, it'd be fine. Now the interesting thing, if I import, which I think I already have the file there. Let me just peek. Yep, right there. So if we go to the data sources now, if I've done everything correctly, like we'll just pick on this guy and we'll go to show advanced settings. And I didn't do it right, Nick, because I had that pause in there. But we're just going to pretend like those are gone. And I'm going to submit. And I'm not going to verify. It should be gone. And then I'm going to go over here to my file. And I'm going to pull this line right here. And I'm going to import right on top of that hot while it's running. Nothing's going to stop. Nothing's going to miss a beat and all that great stuff. I don't understand exactly the registry error, but only thing I can attribute that to is that I have a MS Access data source in there. And I think it has something to do with the registry. Not worried about it. Everything tested and worked fine. So I'm going to click into this guy. And because of those settings, oh, this is not making me look good here, Nick. Let me double check out here. Oh, let me use this fellow. Okay, now I'm gonna have to go back. Let's just do this. I'm gonna fix loop test. So my test is correct. So sorry about that. I thought I should have remembered that step and I didn't. Not gonna do that, so I'm gonna have to do something like this. I can type that safely. Let's hit my capital.
I don't know. Are you sure?
I know, right? I was like, where's this capital AT thing coming from? Watch this be one of the settings where I have to, restart the server or something like that. Restart the service. I'm pretty sure I don't on the data sources. So we're going to check into this guy. Okay, they're all cleared out. Just to verify. I don't want Nick talking about me. I'm going to check my main one. So demo. What the heck? Was he not?
I think that
in the
batch file you
list?
just created the file that you then need to run. I don't think those actually ran.
Ah, thanks a lot, Nick. Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's the pressure. So really, I can go over to the bat file that's already there that the first one created called update DSN. That's what I really need out of that guy. But that's where it's at. I have to do this. John's probably sitting there in the background laughing at me. He's fumbling. He's doing live code. Don't do it, Randy. What was it called? Update. Yep. Crap. Okay. Sorry, this is our stage and things are a little different here. And I don't want to go messing some other things up. There we go. All right, you sure this time, Nick? SN1 ET. Nick, I swear to God, this worked for me when I tested it before.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain the CFSetup is its own batch file. So you need to actually do something in front of it.
Yeah.
Just do a dir quick and.
Oops, sorry. Have it.
Yeah, it's a batch file. So you're going to have to do if you put start in front of each of those, I think that'll run one at a time.
You saying start? Okay.
Yeah.
This time it was number 1, which I added anyways.
Just type in or
ran this flawlessly. I tell you, they just kept running. All of a sudden, I get in front of you guys, and it doesn't want to run. Do I have extra spaces in here? I shouldn't have.
Or no, sorry. Type in instead of start. Type in call space. So type in call in front of that, and then paste that in front of each of those lines.
You know what I think I had the last time, where I like cleaned everything up. I think I had CFSetup.bat, but that shouldn't matter.
Wouldn't work either because it's You owe me $5 if this works.
I'm almost afraid to bet you. Like, they might be right. I don't think so, but it's not working, Nick. It's not working. Just, ignore what's happening.
It's formatting your hard drive.
Right. Exactly. Interesting.
So yeah, the reason why call works is that's a piece in the Windows batch files. Essentially, if it doesn't force it to spawn a new copy of terminal is really what happens in the background. So if you use PowerShell or if you use the Windows Terminal application, I think you can get away with just doing the batch files.
Right. All right, so we're going to peek over there now that it really ran. And we're going to see that this guy should have all those blanked out, right? Yep. But the Q36 one gave us like issues. So it might not be
because it had a space.
Yep. Oh, between modulator. Gotcha. So I go back up here, hopefully to my demo. And I was doing an import someplace back here. There we go. We're going to import on top of all that stuff. That's another cool thing that I need to mention in here. See how I just made a backup in that certain location? That is a nice feature because what if, I accident or whatever have you, and it keeps like, I don't know, it gives them like this sequential number. So I could do all types of crazy stuff, update the runtime, update the data sources, and come back and forth. And at least I have those files, which I can show to you. They're pretty much, I think the corresponding file, data sources is data sources dot, is that neo-data sources .xml. That's what it is. Click on this guy.
But now you've got more copies of your password floating around that you don't know about.
Right. And I'm saying box though. Well, Nick, it crashed on me. So I'm pretty sure it's related to this guy, or I had to restart it. Even though it says everything was successful, but did create this backup. Let me go there real quick. Let's see what we got in there. Data sources that XML that back. Just gonna double click on it. And there's everything the way it was. What I found out with the tool is that when you're altering something, like if I go to the CF demo one, and I think it's lib, right? That has a neo.xml in it. See this guy right here? Even though it failed, this one, if I put that one on top of that one, it really will bring the import right there. So it creates this back first, and I guess in case it fails, it doesn't like really alter it, even though it's like says it's changed. I mean, go figure. That was like one of my like what the hecks in that presentation. So that pretty much concludes like demo 5. Any questions before I go to like the summary and like the resources and all that great stuff?
So I guess one thing I was kind of hoping for or looking for or something like that is the ability to export one or all of those settings to as like as a JSON blob or whatever to the terminal, not to a file. I do a lot of, with a lot of the automation I do between Docker, between K8, between backing up settings, a lot of that stuff. I put myself into a lot of automation tools, and from a like command line PowerShell bash scripts or whatever. I very much like to export that stuff to the screen, and then I can capture it to either, and then send it to like sed or something like that to modify things like stuff like that on the fly, as opposed to having to modify those in Notepad or whatever. Have you done anything with that stuff?
I've played around with it like limited right here. There's not. Oh, I think I put an S in there and it should be an S. I can't remember. Okay.
And like with this one here, you're exporting again to a file on the disk, but I really need to I'm really want to like do it like just, instead of having to write to a disk and then open the file and all that stuff, just send it to the command prompt or to the screen essentially.
Pretty sure you can't, but I'm going to the help log. Yep. Category, JSON file, alias name, export. Nope. Only to a JSON file. I mean, you can get it, you can show it, and that will dump to the screen if you wanted to like capture it. Like if I wanted to.
Yeah, it's just an extra step. So.
Yeah. So you want it when I run that export, you want it to like just start echoing back to the screen.
Yep. I mean, that's the way a lot of automation tools work.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I can agree with you on that one. All right, sir. Anybody else have any questions? Sorry, I had some like difficulty there. I wish I would have. I'm pretty sure, Nick, it said CFSetup.bat, and I think I took it out. But it worked with a call. That's fine. Because I've run it multiple times.
Hit it with a big enough hammer, you can usually get it to work, right?
Right.
Does it work with environment variables at all?
That's John, I didn't test it with any environment variables. I think it would. So, like, what's what I'm trying to think of? I don't play around DOS that much. I think Path, right? Path will send me stuff
I was
in there.
talking about custom environment variables.
Yep. So Randy, do type in like set timeout equal, or just not CFSet. So just do set and then do Randy timeout. Nope, no space. Randy timeout equals 5 or something like that, or 15 or whatever. It doesn't matter. And then try doing set your timeout command that you did earlier.
Yep. It was this guy, right? Yep.
Yep. So paste that in there and then just replace that 5 in there with percent Randy timeout percent.
Show him something shorter.
See if that does something.
How about we try a different number?
There you go.
Because we already have it set to 5, right? Just to make sure, Nick. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I'll set to 25, John, and I'll run that again.
Right. And from the command line, that's more likely. I'm wondering if it's in a script. I'm thinking it should, depending how you do it.
It says it was successful, but it wasn't.
Right.
Well, that's awesome.
Or is this one of the ones where I have to reset it? I mean, we didn't have to before, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Try try it just like
try
that.
Try straight 5, just to see what happens.
No, you broke it.
No, it's got to be there, Nick. Let's do this. Hang on. Just because that's showing there, I think it might be like a cache. 1 second.
It's the right server admin. That's the right server admin, right?
Yes, that is.
Randy's accidentally touching his production server.
I know, right? Oops. Oh, this is stage, so suck for stage. All right, you see it says 5 there, Nick. So I'm thinking what John was saying. I think it comes back to that whole like setting thing, security thing that Pete makes reference to. Now I'm gonna do the Randy one, and then I'm gonna get it. Maybe it goes the other way, or I'm gonna copy it. There we go. Did work. Not gonna see it in here. So it's updating the file, but whatever, server running, it's reading that cache version. If I restart this, it should be 25.
You have to restart the server. Could you just log out, log back in?
Yeah, we can try that. Good one there, Rick. Yep. All right, now you guys got me like really curious. Let's restart this one. Well, that's restarting. Any other questions, John? That was a good one. No, I didn't think about it. Why don't you tell me that for the presentation, John? I could have used that one. He's like, I did. I just told you. Come on.
It's doing that. One thing that I read was, people will be watching this and saying, well, I'm not running CF 2021. I'm running an older version. I read somewhere where somebody tested this all the way back to CF 10 and it worked.
Yeah, Charlie did. I tested with 11 and 16.
Did he try it on Blue Dragon?
I don't think no. It only works with ACF. So
yeah, it does not work with Lucy or Blue Dragon, John.
I was going to say, John, you're probably gonna have to get a time machine in order to get Blue Dragon.
Well, I figure if anybody had a copy, it'd be Charlie.
There you go, Nick. It's 25. So it's only altering the file, but whatever is running when this is running is in like cache mode. I can't remember if that was something. I think they introduced in 18. We didn't have a copy of 18 around here, so and that is one of my like cons, John. I'll just pop this back over here. I'll do this. I mean, I already said the Pro was like a small install. It creates those backups in case you like really screw up. You know what, Nick? I wonder if those data sources, they probably needed to restart. Because remember, it didn't look like it started. Anyways, different thought. Key thing, you can pop stuff to the clipboard, even though Nick is not happy because he wants to just see it dump to the terminal and he wants to highlight and copy from there. I got you. The ColdFusion 10 is what Charlie said. I tested with 11. It worked. I haven't tested with 18, but it says right on their website that this doesn't work with Adobe ColdFusion 28. 2018 release. So I'm like, what the heck? I mean, that's definitely like a limitation.
Well, to Nick's point, a lot of what we do when we automate DevOps, etc., is headless work.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's headless, we don't have the UI to give us feedback, especially when we're using Docker containers and so forth. So,
Right.
So I think, like you said, there was probably an issue because we went into the headed version, and I don't think this is designed for headed interaction. I think you should file a bug either way.
Gotcha. It said it works with Docker. I didn't have time to like check it or anything. And it looks like, I don't know if you could just bring in the different categories. It looked like it was just dumping all your settings and you suck them into Docker.
Yeah, it looks from what I've seen used before, it essentially you can do like the export for like the entire JSON file, and then the Docker side, essentially there's a single import for Docker specifically.
Right. And if I'm right, what actually happened is that set the setting, but your live server doesn't pick it up till it restarts.
That's right. Yep. And they make reference to that in the lockdown guide, and I can't remember what section. I was like, huh,
so
that's interesting.
Docker, that'll be pretty much anytime you change something, you spin up a new container. So that should be a done deal.
Right. And like I said, another pro is the passphrase thing. I thought that's kind of cool. I mean, I don't know. I haven't used CFconfig in about 3 years, and I don't think that was there.
They're still outputting the passwords there.
As far as I know of. So someone will chime in and correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm going to laugh out loud about that every time.
So unlike CFconfig, it doesn't have that built-in compare. I love that about CFconfig. If I wanted to compare my settings to get Nick's Lucy server, I could. I mean, but then again, you think about how many times did I do that if I'm running ACF? I'm probably running ACF, but what about that day? And even from the standpoint, I understand Adobe wanted to keep me in Adobe's pockets, but what about that? What if I were coming from Lucy? I don't want to retype all that. I want to get it over here as quick as possible. So even if they just made it, we'll import from Lucy, but we won't export. Whatever, This seems like might have missed something on that one. Thanks for the question, guys. Thanks for taking the time. I'll be getting this demo or this PowerPoint to Rick as well, and we also have the video, so I'll hold that one up there in case somebody in the future wants to look at this and see where I got this stuff from. I make reference to the Charlie Earhart presentation, and that's pretty much it for this. John, thanks for the good question about the environment variable. That was interesting. So I'm kind of thinking, what else are you thinking, John?
Well, when you set up a Docker container, you can configure the environment variables right through your Docker Compose.
Mm-hmm.
So you could pass them through right there. That's one of the places I use them.
Gotcha. I'd say one of my bigger complaints, though, is that whole, Docker has that compare thing. I mean, it'd be nice also if he could add that to the lockdown guide. So if anybody's looked at that Adobe lockdown guide, you're constantly hopping between this setting, document, that setting, is this enabled, document. I would almost just like to read in and say, yep, I'm going to do that. Nope, I'm not going to do that. And I don't know, it'd be building someplace, or at least let me cut and paste it to those commands to text file so I could run it later. Whatever. I need, a better way of documenting it. I don't like looking back and it's like, I wonder why I made that 25 seconds, I kind of want to know.
I do really like the fact that unlike CFconfig, it's this here, you just have a zip file, it's a batch file, it just runs. Really, what it looks like, it's just a set of Java files that just run. So as far as me deploying this on a production server, I feel a lot safer about this as opposed to CFconfig, which requires just a whole bunch of dependencies and all that type of stuff, which I start getting uneasy about. I know they don't seem to think it's a big problem, but I know for me, I have to when you go through like PCI DSS or something like that, like you have to account for every single thing you install. And then also you have to worry about those when you start building your own containers and all that. So I do like the simplicity of this and the fact it just kind of, pushes those settings over. I wish there were ways to kind of tweak some of the things, like the way that they lay out some of these commands just kind of awkward, but especially if you're used to any type of automation tools and things like that. But it's fine. It's it'd be nice again if this also was a little more generic for other engines and that type of stuff. But
yeah, I have those same concerns about CFconfig. I'm like, okay, at least something hanging out here, something still running. And I think I did that one time, and I left one running, and I brought over like some scheduled task, and it was running. I was like, oh crap, that's why I kicked off twice, because it's running over here and I forgot. But
yeah,
anyways, I mean, this is definitely like super simplistic and probably in its infancy. I don't know if I would have taken a different approach, and hopefully Adobe hears what Nick is saying as far as like, I don't know what they put, like dump the screen, like a switch in there. I was just checking the help real quick to make sure I didn't miss something, like, oh yeah, you just put in like, I don't know, -D, and it dumps it back to the screen.
Yeah, and then, and like I said, in my case, like if I need to deploy a new server, I'm not using Docker or whatever I'm using, but I still have to maintain compliance with, PCI DSS or whatever it might be. I can go and just copy these batch files over there, copy the jar files, run it, and then delete that directory. Where with command box, it's a little more complicated, and it, especially like if you have to keep it up to date and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what do you think about this option? I was thinking about this too, Nick. Like, say for instance, I got my server built and I didn't know anything about this, or I had this server from a compliance standpoint, and I just wanted to export not only all the settings, I want you to export like the CFSetup. You see what I mean? Like if this whatever setting was 25 seconds, I want a file that has all that in there. So I can say, this is my file setup, so if the building burned down or whatever have you, I don't know. Or
Yeah,
maybe for compliance issue, not just run, go. It might take an hour to do it, but take care of it.
Well, and in the stuff that I do, so Randy, the CF servers, or I shouldn't say CF servers, but the Lucy servers that we run in production on the telecom side of the house, we don't actually have file system access to our production servers. Everything runs through Git. And what's really nice, about the way we do things, I'm able to copy down my configurations, and they literally exist on our GitLab server. So you want to make a change in production, you change it there, and then you type a command, and it goes and copies everything down, pushes it out. That way, you always know what the current version is. And if somebody needs to make a change to something, they always have to write a comment when they make those changes. So
right.
You have built-in documentation of what your data sources are. You have, you have copies of all these settings always sitting out there, so your admins can take a look at stuff if they need to.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that'd be awesome.
And what's even nicer about that too is all of a sudden, if I'm in a situation where I need to debug something and I need to debug, do some hardcore debugging, I can take a copy of what's in production, literally copy it down to my machine, deploy my machine just the exact same way, and then go and mess with settings and all that stuff and not have to worry about, is this setting different than what it is in production and all that too.
Yeah, I think it says something like baseline with like no data source in there. I think it was like 340 something settings. Like, oh my God, it was like a nightmare. Then you add data sources and other things and mail servers, and it just like keeps growing out of control. I mean, I like what you did, I think 2 or 3 months ago, as far as like documentation. I can't remember what it was. I was like, that was pretty smooth. I'll have to get back with you on it. And the document, it was like some tool you're using, and it created the documentation. And it was like really professional, and it, how they do it.
Oh, yeah. I think you're talking about Postman.
Is that what it was? Postman?
Yeah, okay. That was for all the REST endpoints.
Yeah, yep. It was that presentation. I was like, it'd be nice if they did something like that, because us being an EDU, it seems like they want you to document even more nowadays. What are you doing? Why are you doing?
Hey, you haven't even been invited to the cab yet.
Right, yeah. I just want to get myself ready. So when that does happen, it's like, well, this is why we're doing vanilla soft, Nick. Oh, sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that.
I think you hit on an idea for a good open source project, Randy, where you would fill out the settings you want. It would email you a complete set of the settings, and attached would be a batch file to run.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, I mean, scratching my head there, Rick. I mean, that's what I want. I'm gonna be like Charlie in that case. Like, I'm too busy with my current job. I can't be like diving into that. I'll have to get it to young guys like Nick.
Well, it'd be nice, like I say, utility to have.
Yeah,
Whether open source or just you throw up a website and just to make the CFer's day easier.
Yeah, I mean, messing around with this project really, or this tool got me like, man, that's what CF, like I'm doing my documentation because I have to document it out here. And every time I get to one of those spots, whether it be IS or something like that, I'm like, tedious, time consuming, crazy. Like something needs to be fixed here. And this was like one of those sections. I was like, there's no way nobody's going to bring all these, data sources. But if you could do it that way.
I mean, you do this between this and the PowerShell command to generate all your IIS settings. You almost have a complete copy of your server.
Oh yeah,
maybe minus a few like SSL certs or things like that you want to keep protected. But besides that, you're like it's probably 90% there.
Oh yeah, I got the IIS stuff under lock. I mean, it's pretty much like go. I mean, from like bare bones like servers here, even like where I'm slapping like certain icons or shortcuts on the desktop and everything. Like, yep. Then I get the CF and it's like, oh, we're going back to the snail space here. I'm like, hug. But this tool definitely helped. The auto lockdown tool that also helped as well, even though it did two things I didn't really like as far as like permissions on the content or on the web content drive. And I don't know if it's tight enough on the ColdFusion drive, but who am I to say? But I want to dive into that one a little deeper. We've been using that one, and it's not. I mean, it's great, and it saves you time. Like just even like for this demo one, for me to run lockdown on that would probably take about 20 minutes. And I know it's time, and you want to set it and forget it, or let it just build itself automatically. But yeah, Rick, I like the way you think. Now you got me thinking about that, Rick. Thanks a lot. I'll be driving home tonight thinking about that. Like, that guy has an interesting thought. John, you got any other thoughts? Matt, you got any questions? Again, sorry about the fumbles, and I rehearsed this. Honestly, I did, and I was like, when I get to that spot, panicked. All right. If you guys have any questions, Rick, you can go ahead and close it out. Nick, we can stop the recording, and